Are we playing golf later today, by the way?
Unfortunately not today.
Okay. Are you in Charlotte?
I'm in Charlotte,
Okay.
yeah.
And the weather today in Charlotte is?
It'll be 70 today.
Yeah.
Well, you could be playing golf if I had time, but
Yeah, well, fuck off. It's not 70 here. It's like,
I know.
I don't know, maybe. Well, in Indy, it's actually, the temperature's not that bad just because the front hasn't come through, but it's supposed to storm all afternoon. And then, of course, the temps will dive back into the 40s. And tomorrow it's like,
Oh, man.
I don't know, high of 48-ish, which isn't awful, but like really windy. So it'll probably feel a lot colder than it really is.
Yeah.
This is the time of year, in Iowa's probably somewhat similar. We get like little tastes. Like all of a sudden you'll have a sunny 65 day and you're like, yes, it's spring. And then 2 days later, you'll have snow flurries. It's like, what the?
Yeah, I
Just
was
not there yet.
in Minnesota earlier this week, last week, and it was like snowing still, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, it's still winter in Minnesota. They only have like, what, a month of spring, which is probably mid-May to mid-June. Then they have July and August, and then it starts getting cold again. It's
Hell yeah,
it's Canada South.
for sure.
Well, I'm in Denver this week, and it snowed 1 foot on Monday, and I had a trial where it snowed a foot. I went there on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, and there was no snow on the ground.
That's crazy.
That's how fast it melted. It went from 30 or 29 degrees to like 55. It was crazy. Gone. Interesting, but that's Denver.
Yeah. And today it's probably sunny, right?
Oh, it's beautiful. Gorgeous.
All right, cool. Well, let's get rolling. I'll start us off, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Industrious Podcast. Thank you all for joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're watching us on the Assessa YouTube channel, thank you for joining us there. Don't forget, if you're on the Assessa YouTube channel and you haven't subscribed, hit that little subscription button, hit the little bell notification icon that can alert you when new episodes like this one drop. We would greatly appreciate it. By the way, it is absolutely free. Doesn't cost you a dime to do that. So please consider doing so. Today, we have a new episode, new guest for you. We're kind of all over the place. We've got me in Indy, Chad out in Denver, and our guest, Marco, in Charlotte. So anyway, without further ado, Marco Belluz from Cefla Finishing. Marco, welcome to the Industrious Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. I think we already touched on this, but you got the Callaway cap on. There is golf or is not golfing this afternoon?
I wish there was golf, but I got a 10-year-old to take the football practice. So.
Football in the spring.
And the spring and fall.
Really? Okay.
So
quick question there, is this like a club in the spring, or is this like the school team in the spring?
No, it's all club team. So
Okay.
he's not, they don't do school till middle school.
Oh,
So
okay.
Up until there, it's got to be club.
What position does he play?
Fullback, guard, linebacker, defensive end. So he's switching around a little bit at this age still, but he loves it, man. Can't get enough of it.
Awesome. You don't hear fullback very often anymore. And so I'm old school. I like hearing that. I mean, it's tough nose. Like fullbacks need to be a little bit different breed because offense, you think of not being the aggressor, but mostly fullbacks, they're wanting to put the pads on someone.
Yeah, at 10 years old, we don't have a Tom Brady back there yet, so it's a lot of old school smash mouth football. Right?
Yeah,
so
cool.
Fullback helps.
Nice. Well, best of luck to him. Marco,
that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny there, Vince, when you talk about fullback, because that's kind of Iowa's. That's kind of their MO. Fullback. We still have a fullback.
This is true.
Big Ten football, baby.
Yeah.
All right, I got my piece in.
I was gonna say, yeah. Chad's little to-do list was mention Iowa wherever I can, and there'll be one more because with with the
Right.
ladies Final Four coming up. That'll be, this episode will release after that, but I'm sure there will be a mention there. So congratulations and you're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
that.
right. Well, hey, Marco, why don't you give our listeners and viewers a little introduction and some background on yourself?
So I've been in the industry almost about 20 years. Started off in Della Vedova Cefla. Della Vedova was a company that Cefla bought out in the mid 2000s, but started there in '03. So it's approaching 20 years now. Kind of fell into it. Was started off just working during the day, going to school at night, kind of just as a job, and then just kept evolving. And 20 years later, it's all you know how to do. So it's been a crazy ride the past 20 years.
Yeah. Have you always been in sales, or did you start in a certain area and kind of evolve
No,
through that?
I mean, I started off and just kind of in the parts cage, then did spare parts manager, manufacturing manager, service, then off the sales engineering, and then been in sales probably, I don't know, the past 8 to 10 years now or so in
Yeah.
some kind of form.
Looking back, would you say that, I mean, hindsight's 2020, of course, that you're happy or glad the way it's kind of progressed? Because unlike someone who maybe comes in straight into sales, I mean, you can probably talk about the process and the machine inside and out better than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? When it's just kind of grown up that way, it definitely gives you a lot of advantages. Talking about processes, talking about seeing it from all different angles, right? So
Mhm.
that's been I think, a huge part of my success and what I can bring to the customers.
Right. Definitely. Well, why don't you kind of tell us or tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about Chefla in general and Chefla Finishing? Who is the company and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so Cefla Finish is one of the largest and oldest finishing companies in the world. Celebrated 90 years last year. Been in the U.S. market since the late '70s. Um, as far as we are able to provide finishing solutions from small to large range customers, and one of the only suppliers that actually builds and supplies all the various parts that go into a finishing line. So the only third party equipment you would see in our lines are sanding solutions, which we don't really focus on. But, as far as the ovens, conveyors, spray machines, handling, and all this is all a Chefla supply. So we're able to do, small shops, but also on the very high end automated lines, being able to supply the whole thing is a huge benefit.
Yeah. What have you seen be the biggest advancements over the last 5 or 10 years?
That's definitely focused, I think, towards the small to medium sized shops. That's really what our focus has been on past 5 to 10 years, and really a big growth of what some of the growth we've experienced. Being able to bring the automation prices down, and now you're starting to see anywhere from 3 to 4 man Amish shops trying to get into some automation, and medium sized shops. I would say that now that's easily 40 to 50% of our business is small to medium sized shops. And over the past 5 to 10 years, we're really focused on developing equipment just to fit those needs, right? Bringing, $1 million finishing lines into the hands of medium sized shops at half that entry cost point, to be able to produce at a higher level, whether it's the quality, the quantity, and everything that higher end lines can produce as well.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Chad and I were down, and the rest of our team were down at IWF in Atlanta. So for any of our listeners or viewers don't know what IWF is, it's the International Woodworking Fair. So it's a really large woodworking industry trade show in Atlanta that's every other year. Um, Everyone from those supplying the coatings to equipment manufacturers and everyone in between. It's a massive international show. Ran into a couple customers down there. The first one was a pretty big customer who has, multiple flat lines and all that, but they were there looking for additional automation equipment, not large lines, but certain machines for certain sectors. And it wasn't surprising, but as we were talking to them, we're like, "What? You've been looking at these for 5 or 10 years. Why are you finally pulling the trigger now? And he said, well, two things. A, the price has come down where it makes it, almost a no-brainer. And two, with the way employment is, it just, again, it's a no-brainer. The ROI is gonna be much, much quicker. They're having a hard time staffing up, so if they can get this machine that will potentially fill in for 2 or 3 people, it makes all the sense in the world. And so we actually followed him over to that manufacturer's booth and ran into 2 other customers of ours who were much smaller, and they were actually looking, to your point, looking at the similar types of equipment where I said it themselves. They said, "Look, normally we would never be here because this stuff was just priced out beyond our range, but now it just makes sense because they can't find people either. The cost of the investment has come down, and the ROI is now like, yeah, I think one of the guys said if it was under anything under 3 years, it's like a no-brainer." And so we've now started to see those. Chad's out in Denver today. Some of the shops that we were in out there recently are buying equipment to do just a variety of different jobs, whatever it may be, and it's places that just normally wouldn't have done that in the past. And so it's kind of cool to see, like the CD player when they first came out, right? I mean, we're all old enough to remember the CD player. Our younger
Oh,
viewers
yeah.
may not, but those things were like $500 when they first come out. Now, like, no one would ever even buy one just because it's been passed by. But um, what's the hot item today?
Well, the hottest item for sure is our new drying technology, which we call the Uni Dry, and that's powered by Sunspot technology. So we've partnered with Sunspot on this oven, which basically they're supplying a catalytic heating pad, right? That it can use natural gas or propane. You talk about a running cost of 75 cents an hour. So,
That much, huh?
you know, yeah. Well, even more importantly, what does this technology really do for the customer? So,
Yeah.
in traditional finishing lines in the past few years, you would have um, uh, the ovens were powered by hot air and then traditional infrared lamps. But hot air powered ovens would require a boiler system, right? So it required an extra investment of anywhere, depending on the size of the ovens, obviously. You're looking at an extra 50 to $150,000 investment to feed hot water to these machines, right?
Hmm.
So that automatically, a lot of the medium-sized shops, it's like, dude, that's just,
Yeah.
we're looking to spend that on a machine, not on utility and building costs, et cetera. So that Sunspot technology has basically solved that problem,
Hmm.
right? So now you're able to get into like a lineal oven with Sunspot technology for that under 150 grand, right? So for the cost of what it used to cost just to outfit your building, you can now get the drying system. On top of that, this type of medium wavelength that these plates produce, or heating, putting the energy inside the coating, not in the part. And also, more importantly, it's heating the coating from the bottom up. So where a lot of other heating methods are going from the top down, it reduces skimming and that of the coating. So it enables you to dry a lot quicker. And the even better part is we make these in lineal ovens. We now got into making just batch ovens, and also these plates can be bought just individually and put in a shop in open air to help reduce your rack time. So we've kind of eliminated all the possibilities of a shop to say, oh man, I don't have room for a lineal line. Not a problem. You can put an automated spray machine, and then you can put in a batch oven, which you know, gets you to that same place where you need to be. Oh, well, I don't have room for a batch oven, or I'm not ready for that. Okay, you can go from an automated spray machine standalone and put some of these Sunspot units, off in a corner. And then if eventually you want to sheetrock it into a room, you can do that or whatever. Or to say, okay, even now it's put us in shops to where, okay, I'm not ready to automate the spraying yet, but now we have some small entry level drying solutions that can still keep that rack time down and get your throughput. So we're able to get in at every level of the customer's needs and help them grow. That's what's been, I think, the biggest change, at least from a Cefla point of view, in the past few years, to where, you know, we did a lot in medium-sized shops, and it was always still lineal flatlined.
Hmm.
And there were still some customers that were kind of left out because of space, because of price points, et cetera. Now we have solutions where we're not leaving anybody out anymore, right? And as they put in some stuff for drying, well, eventually the sprayer can't keep up, and then they automate that. So you can attack the problem from both sides of the aisle per se.
Yeah, that's good to know. Would you say that timing is absolutely key here in that you're starting to see more and more people to move over to water-based coatings, whether they're coating wood, glass, metal, doesn't really matter what the substrate is. Coatings are
Yeah.
starting to evolve and go in that direction. So to your point, the things like a sunspot, et cetera, are really key in terms of how to best cure and dry out that water-based coating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the knocks on the water base was, oh, if my humidity changes, things change in my shop, which now the sunspot unit's completely taken out, right? So you're able to get yourself in a position to where all these factors don't matter anymore, right? And still get all the great benefits of the water-based coating. So I think that's crucial, right? So um, it gives them all the weapons they need to attack that.
Yeah. Where do you see, I mean, I know everyone's crystal ball is perfectly clear, but where do you see things continuing to evolve in the next, let's say, 5 years?
So the trend that I see is that anytime I walk into the shop, right, the finishing was always the last thing on people's minds, right? It was like, okay, I got these two guys been taking care of it forever. Well, the problem with that is the knowledge to be able to do that, right, at a high level. And it's difficult to find these people. That's where a lot of opportunities have come up for us. With kind of our prima, which means first in Italian, right? Where we've taken just the manual spray booth and automated it on a simple, easy to use flat line. I think that the biggest future is in the automation of those departments because of labor force, because of quality and consistency and easiness of use in the long run, and saying, okay, now I can count on that department, right? It's
Mhm.
always on a set schedule versus having, to deal with, man, my best finisher's not there, or I have to train somebody to finish. Now training somebody to stick a part on a flatbed machine and turn it on and have settings is a lot easier than having somebody, teach somebody the black magic of finishing, right?
Right, yeah.
Um, but the key point there is the price point is now right for people to consider that and afford that. The lead times are correct because we stock a lot of these first time products, right? The Prima, the Sunspots. So somebody can have a big job coming up and can make a decision based on that, right? Because a lot of times these shops, I mean, they're not going to be able to handle a 6 to 9 months lead time on something because, okay, I'm making decisions because I got these bunch of jobs coming up. It could pay for some equipment, but I got to do it now. I can't do it, at the end of next year, for example. So I think those are all the key factors there.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Would you say technology is also, like anything else, playing a key role in that, it used to be maybe the guns were fixated, but now you have much more, I'm probably saying this the wrong way because I'm not an engineer, but don't have quite the robotic movements that you have today. So you have the ability to paint different size and different shaped objects where maybe before was more of a challenge.
yeah, so I mean, I think the gun technology has evolved. The capability of the machines have gotten, to where, people think of a flat line that it just does flat parts, which that isn't the case anymore, right? You can get away with a lot of different parts on more entry level machines to where you don't need to go to the all out robotic systems yet to spend a lot of money. So that's definitely helped out. And just being able to open the eyes. I mean, we use some of the same technologies in the glass, in the wood, in the metal, um, it- and the machines don't really change much, right? They're all pretty much adaptable to all these different types of products.
Hmm. Chad, what stood out to you when guys were out there doing that glass coating trial?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, how fast we got things moving with I mean, as far as the team out there, when you give them a coating, And he said, "This is what you want to do." And they set that machine up exactly how you want it. And you just start spraying parts. And I mean, we had a very successful trial. We didn't have to really mess around with any settings, um, but yeah, the capabilities out there to get exactly what you're going to do in that shot. I felt, you could replicate everything there. I mean, right there on that line with drying, spraying, tips, they had everything available. So that was probably the best part of that about that trial with the glass for sure.
Look like you were about
But
to ask a question. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna bring up when you were talking about the robotics side of it. I'm out in the wild here, as I say, in Denver, and I got to actually see one of the robotics machines, the 3 dimensional, and I was amazed on how now back I mean, when I was doing flatlines in the '90s, it was basically sides of doors, cabinet frames and sides, boom, and just going as fast as you can. And now, you do the charges, you could throw in drawer boxes, you can throw in corbels. I mean, you could throw in a lot of different things that you had to have a tow line for. It kind of, I mean, it speeds up everything now with that ability. I didn't know how long has that technology been around?
So the robotic is evolved from, it's probably been around for about 10, 15 years, but
Yeah.
the past few years, it's evolved greatly, right? To where that machine first kind of got introduced for applying glues for thermofoil presses and things like that. So essentially, what would happen is, you'd want, in a flat line, if you put in a cabinet door, you'd get 100% of the top, 50% of the sides. You flip it, get 100% of the back, another 50% on the sides, you get 100% all the way around. So in the glue, when you're going in these presses, you don't need to do the back. So the first problem is, okay, I need more, really, the sides are more important than the top, right? So the robotic first was developed to have like a robotic edge gun, for a part to come in, have the edge gun go around the edges to get the desired quantity on there. Now, then this machine has evolved in a lot of different product lines. We have 2R machines now. Now we have a 3D reading system. So essentially, the parts can be, you could have a charge of parts where, you have a half moon shaped part, you have a drawer box, you have a piece of molding, and you have a cabinet door, right? So you could have all that on the same charge. Your 3D system would read all these parts. And now the gun or the edge gun would, you could go it would go in reset mode, do all the edges and do everything you need it to do without, the traditional type of programming that would be required for a robotic arm is done automatically. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the most versatile machines that we offer, on a flat line, because you can reset, you can do edges, you can do 3D shape, all these different types of things without having to specifically, call up a recipe for each individual part. We do that automatically.
That's cool.
So that's at the higher end technology for the higher end customers that have all those different types of needs.
Yeah. But I could see that need obviously transcending across the spectrum. And then, at some point, pretty much will become a standard adoption, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even once people see that edge gun and see what it's capable of doing, then some of those guys it would be hard to live without anymore. So hopefully, as time goes on, the cost of this technology comes down as other technologies have, because
Hmm.
I think everybody would have a need for that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, we would appreciate your assistance on that coding trial that they were on out there for the glass piece. You seen any trends at all in terms of, um, I guess maybe who has the highest demand? Not to pit um, the wood side versus glass versus metal, but you seen any real trends amongst the specific industries in terms of application?
So the wood is still the highest demand, and I think within that, it's really the medium to small size shops seem to have an extreme high demand lately. And then some of the higher end manufacturers are really starting to ramp up production and really, that have been kind of quiet for the past years, have really started penning up demand too. The glass projects this year have been pretty well. I mean, it's a smaller industry, but
Mm-hmm.
we've done 2-3 projects already this year, which is a good number for that size industry. And metal is growing year after year, whether it's pipe and tube, whether it's metal sheets and things like that. So that's, it's been growing as a lot of these companies are going more to liquid coatings versus the traditional powder coatings. Then that's opened up a lot of opportunities for us.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. We like hearing that.
Hey,
Awesome. Chad, do you have anything else to offer us?
No, I mean, I just, like I said, that three-dimensional arm is pretty neat. And that booth that you have out there in the lab there is as big as a cruise ship. The thing is a massive unit, and I've seen it downscaled too to maybe just a little bit bigger than the Prima, and it can work in a small shop as well. And there's some benefits to it, and it's pretty neat technology.
Yeah, and then iBotic comes in a lot of different formations, right? We go as small as a 1-arm iBotic K that's made just for smaller shops, all the way, to paper belt machines, recovery belt machines, 1-arm, 2-arm, short bench, long bench. So that product line's really evolved into trying to fit a lot of different spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One size does not fit all, as we know, and that's good that you guys have the ability to modify accordingly. So if anybody out there has any finishing needs, any line needs, etc., hook up with Marco at Cefla and be happy to talk to you about what solutions they may have to fit your need. Any parting words of wisdom, Marco?
Well, I just wanted to just put it out there that from the April 19th to 21st, we have our annual Cefla Live. So we have all these machines and equipment we've talked about will be running. With all different coatings all day. We'll have some guest speakers, some customers and guest speakers. I think it's a good opportunity to see a lot of these different technologies, whether it's the iBotic, whether it's the Prima, the Unidry, the Prima, the lineal machines. We'll have all those technologies running.
Yeah, I was actually at Cefla Live last year, and to your point, yeah, to be able to see it all at the same time and actually not just sitting there, but actually running parts was very, very valuable. So look forward to doing that again this year. Hey, Marco, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for
Thanks for
for
having me
joining
on.
us on the Industrious
Thank you.
Podcast. Good luck with the golf. I mean, good luck with football practice this afternoon.
Yeah.
And tell your son to lay some wood on the opposing D as they try to take on the fullback.
Man, he loves it, man. And I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully it's the first time of many, and like what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank all of you
Thanks, Mark.
guys out there for tuning in to the Industrious Podcast, whether you're listening to wherever you get your podcasts or you're tuning in on the Assessa YouTube channel. Thank you for doing so. Again, hit that subscription button, hit the little bell notification icon so you can be alerted when new episodes drop. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget, be industrious.